Welcome to Xiao Zhan Universe. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video with your friends. The quiet hum of their apartment, usually a comforting backdrop, now felt strained, like a taut wire about to snap. Xiao Zhan watched Wang Yibo from across the living room, a man absorbed in his phone, his face a mask of detached focus. For weeks, this had been their new normal. A subtle coolness had crept into Yibo's demeanor, a quiet distance that felt colder than any winter chill. Zhan swallowed, the familiar knot of frustration tightening in his chest. Tonight, it had to stop. He took a breath. Yibo. Yibo hummed in response, not looking up. Can you just put the phone down for a second? Zhan's voice was gentle, almost pleading, but as he spoke the words, a ripple ran through the very air. The soft, ambient light from the floor lamp, usually a warm gold, subtly flickered, then dimmed, leaching its color until it cast only a sickly, monochromatic pallor over the room. The vibrant hues of their shared space, the warm reds of their sofa, the bright greens of Zhan's potted plants, the blues of Yibo's favorite art piece, began to desaturate, fading into dull, muted grays and browns. The apartment wasn't just losing light, it was losing its vibrancy, reflecting the slow, insidious draining of joy Zhan felt creeping into their relationship. The world was literally dulling around him, a mind-blowing scene of emotional desaturation. Yibo finally looked up, his eyes meeting Zhan's, but his gaze felt distant, almost translucent. "What is it?" he asked, his voice flat. Zhan felt a fresh wave of frustration. "What is it?" "It's this." He gestured around the apartment, which continued to lose color, the rich wood of the coffee table now a lifeless gray. "It's you. You've been different, distant. It feels like I'm talking to a ghost sometimes." As the word ghost left Zhan's lips, the temperature in the room plummeted. Not just a slight chill, but a biting, absolute cold that stole the breath from his lungs. His own breath plumed in front of him, thin and white. Frost, fine as powdered sugar, began to bloom on the edges of the windows, then spread, creeping across the glass table, settling on the leaves of Zhan's once vibrant plants, which instantly withered and crumpled into brittle icy dust. The air shimmered with an unseen force, solidifying into invisible shards that pricked at his skin. Yibo, however, seemed unaffected, sitting in the heart of the frigid scene, his phone still clutched in his hand, a solitary, unyielding statue in a suddenly frozen world. This was Yibo's detachment made physical, a mind-blowing manifestation of the emotional ice Zhan felt. Zhan shivered, pulling his arms around himself. "Why are you doing this? What's going on with you?" He pushed through the literal cold, the frustration sharpening his words. "It's like you don't even care anymore. Like everything we have. It's just fading, freezing over." As Zhan spoke, his voice, thick with emotion, resonated through the frigid air. But it wasn't just his voice. The walls of the apartment, still muted in color, began to shimmer, revealing ghostly, flickering images of past conversations. He saw Yibo's mouth moving, but the words that came out were distorted, echoing hollowly. He saw his own face, reflected back at him from the wall, trying to reach out, but Yibo's image seemed to shift away, just out of grasp. It was an echo chamber of miscommunication, a visual and auditory nightmare where every attempted connection turned into a hollow, mocking replay of their failures to truly hear each other. The very space around them was bending, twisting their shared past into a commentary on their failing present, a truly mind-blowing scene of relational breakdown. "I do care," Yibo finally said, his voice flat, emotionless, a perfect counterpoint to the chaotic echoes. As his words resonated, the spectral images on the walls began to crystallize, hardening into a shimmering, transparent wall of fractured glass that slowly, agonizingly, began to rise between them. It wasn't a physical wall, but a translucent barrier shimmering with distorted reflections of their own faces, twisted and elongated, separated by impossible distances. Each shard of glass on the wall reflected a different, painful unspoken word, a missed glance, a moment of turning away. It was an impermeable barrier, a perfect metaphor made real, the space between them widening into an unbridgeable chasm, a mind-blowing scene of emotional isolation. Zhan stared at the rising barrier, his heart aching. "Don't you see what's happening? We're losing each other. You're building this wall between us." He slammed his hand against the invisible, icy surface of the glass wall, but it remained impassive, unyielding. As his hand connected, a surge of energy, cold and sharp, shot through the wall, causing the entire apartment to spin. Zhan felt himself lift off the floor, tumbling through a kaleidoscope of fragmented light and shadow. He wasn't falling through air, he was falling through a vortex of shattered moments. He saw fleeting glimpses of their past, a shared laugh in a crowded market, a quiet evening sketching, a tender touch. But each image was fragmented, tearing apart, dissolving into pixelated static before his eyes, spiraling down into an unseen abyss. His memories, his very foundations, were being ripped from him, piece by agonizing piece. The familiar anchors of their life together were vanishing, leaving him adrift in a chaotic, meaningless void, a truly mind-blowing and terrifying experience of losing all context. He landed with a gasp, not on the floor, but on a vast, featureless plain of solid, oppressive silence. The air was thick and heavy, devoid of sound, devoid of color. The sky above was a blank, unchanging gray, stretching into infinity. There was no light, no warmth, no sign of life. And in the distance, a solitary figure stood, small and unmoving. It was Wang Yibo, his back to Zhan, facing the desolate horizon, an embodiment of the chilling distance Zhan felt had grown between them. Zhan pushed himself up, his limbs heavy, and tried to call out, but no sound escaped his throat. The silence was absolute, suffocating. He tried to run, but his legs felt weighted with an unseen burden, each step a struggle through the pervasive apathy. This was the ultimate manifestation of his fear, a world drained of all emotion, a future lived in utter, unfeeling solitude, a direct consequence of Yibo's recent behavior made real. He finally reached Yibo, stumbling to a halt behind him. He looked at Yibo's back, a wall of silence. He reached out, his hand trembling, and laid it on Yibo's shoulder. The moment his fingers touched, the desolate plain shattered. The silence exploded into a cacophony of sound. The muted colors rushed back into the apartment, vibrant and overwhelming. The frost vanished from the windows, and the plants instantly revived, blooming with a renewed vitality. The glass wall dissolved. The vortex of shattered memories coalesced back into the solid, reassuring presence of their living room. Yibo flinched, turning sharply, his eyes wide, a flicker of raw, unadulterated shock in their depths. He saw Zhan, breathless, trembling, tears silently tracing paths down his cheeks. He saw the apartment, vibrant and real. He saw the color of Zhan's face, etched with profound pain. "Zhan," Yibo whispered, his voice hoarse, the flatness gone, replaced by a deep, dawning horror. Stay tuned to Yibo Zhan Universe for updates, exclusive breakdowns, and emotional reactions as the story unfolds. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because this miracle might just be real. The silence that followed was heavier than any words. Wang Yibo stared at Xiao Zhan, his mind replaying the fractured realities Zhan had described. He hadn't felt the draining of color or the creeping frost. He had been trapped in his own internal, apathetic void. But now, seeing the profound pain etched on Zhan's face, he felt the chill of what he had done, a cold that was far more chilling than any ice. His heart, once a detached stone, clenched with a sudden, dawning horror. He took a slow, deliberate step forward, the sound of his foot on the carpet a jarring intrusion. He reached out, his hand trembling slightly, and cupped Zhan's cheek. The action was simple, a gesture of quiet tenderness, but as his fingers brushed against Zhan's skin, a wave of warmth radiated from him, a palpable counterforce to the icy remnants of his detachment. As the warmth spread, the muted, monochromatic hues that had leached from their apartment began to subtly return. The lifeless gray of the sofa slowly bled back into its vibrant red, the dull brown of the coffee table took on a new, polished sheen, and the withered leaves of Zhan's plants began to unfurl and rehydrate, their color returning with a renewed, verdant brilliance. The apartment wasn't just regaining its color, it was reclaiming its life, a magnificent, slow-motion restoration of joy that radiated from Yibo's simple touch, a powerful, mind-blowing scene of his sincerity made manifest. "I'm sorry," Yibo whispered, his voice thick with a raw, unfamiliar emotion. I didn't see what I was doing to our world. To you." Zhan leaned into the touch, a silent acknowledgement. He had been so lost in the pain of his own shattered reality, but now, seeing Yibo's dawning horror and genuine remorse, he felt the first flicker of hope. He took Yibo's hand in his, and the light from the repaired apartment coalesced in their clasped hands, a shimmering, pulsating globe of light, a promise of mended things. "The memories," Zhan said, his voice quiet. "They shattered." Yibo nodded, his gaze unwavering. "We'll fix them." He held John's hand tighter, and together, they focused on a single painful memory from the previous vortex, a shared laugh that had been ripped to shreds. The globe of light in their hands pulsed, then shot a single beam into the air. The beam materialized into 1,000 shimmering, fragmented pieces, the shattered echoes of their memory. They were swirling, chaotic, meaningless. But this time, they weren't being destroyed, they were being remade. Guided by their combined will, the pieces began to knit themselves back together, a slow-motion, majestic dance of light and shadow, until they reformed into a perfect, ethereal tableau of that moment. The reconstructed memory didn't just stand there, it pulsed with a new, vibrant life. The holographic images of them laughing seemed more real, the sound of their past laughter more resonant, the emotion more profound. It was a memory made whole again, not by a simple reversal, but by a conscious, collaborative act of repair. The memory wasn't just restored, it was made stronger, a mind-blowing testament to their shared will to heal. With the first memory mended, a new idea sparked. They had seen the pain their rift could cause, but they had also just witnessed the power of their bond to repair. What if they went beyond simple repair? What if they created something new, something that would stand as a monument to their newfound understanding? They closed their eyes, their hands still joined, and focused their combined energy not on a memory, but on a desire, to be in a place of pure, unadulterated peace. The apartment around them shimmered, its walls and furniture dissolving not into a chaotic vortex, but into a swirling, gentle mist of soft, warm light. When they opened their eyes, they were no longer inside. They were standing in an endless field of stars, the air filled with the gentle hum of a silent universe. The ground beneath their feet was a soft, glowing expanse, and the sky above was a vast, perfect canvas of 1,000 swirling galaxies. The feeling was one of profound peace, of total serenity, of being the sole, beautiful, meaningful point in an infinite, quiet cosmos. This wasn't just a manifestation of a place, it was a conscious, collaborative act of creation. A beautiful, mind-blowing scene of a new, shared reality born from their reconciliation. The universe was their canvas, and their love was the brush, painting a reality that was a perfect, physical reflection of their shared bliss. It was a promise, a beacon that showed them what they could build, how far they could go, now that they were truly together. After what felt like an eternity, the stars began to recede, the endless field giving way to the soft, familiar feel of their apartment rug. They were back, standing in the middle of their living room, exhausted but whole. The apartment was once again vibrant, filled with warmth and life, the air alive with a quiet, reassuring pulse. Wang Yibo looked at Xiao Zhan, his eyes shining with a profound respect and a newfound, tender vulnerability. He reached out and, with a gentle, deliberate touch, ran his thumb over the ring on Zhan's finger. The ring pulsed faintly, a soft, warm light, a comforting promise. "Our world is fragile," Yibo said, his voice soft. "But so is a blank canvas. We just have to choose what we paint on it." Xiao Zhan smiled, a genuine, heart-deep expression of a man who had gone to the brink and been brought back. He knew the fight had been worth it, for the pain was just a canvas for the creation that had followed. Their reality, their world, was a beautiful living thing, and now, they both knew exactly what it needed to thrive. An unending supply of honest conversation and genuine affection, a constant, loving presence to keep the colors from fading and the warmth from freezing over. The next chapter, he knew, would be an exquisite masterpiece.